This is macOS Ken.
Recapping some of the WWDC announcements. It is Tuesday, the 8th of June, 2021. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by the Business Movers podcast from Monterey. Catch up now on Business Movers Season 5, The Enlightenment of Steve Jobs. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSCan. I spent a lot of Monday trying to figure out how to handle this week's shows. I've got macOS Ken, I've got the checklist, I've got In a Few Minutes, and I've got a presentation to a Mac user group that I'm giving this evening. Where I finally landed was on Division. Here today we'll hit features in most of the operating systems Apple announced during the WWDC keynote, what hardware they'll support, and a smidgen of speculation. Now, if you want to know about the hardware Apple announced, here it is. Did you enjoy it? There was no hardware announced. Is my face red? No more than usual. I thought there would be a new Mac. There was not. Let's move on. Laying everything out in broad strokes, Engadget did a quick hit on Apple's announcements. Expected and delivered were words on iOS 15, iPadOS 15, watchOS 8, tvOS 15, not mentioned by Engadget, and yet it happened, and the next version of macOS, Monterey. Mad props to Andrew Orr at the Mac Observer. He did two great quick hit lists that we'll hit today. The first focuses on features in iOS 15. Among them, several features for FaceTime, including audio improvements like spatial audio, which puts the user's voice where it should be based on how they're placed in a FaceTime call. There's also a new microphone mode that'll focus on a user's voice while lowering or eliminating background noise. FaceTime Portrait Mode does what you'd expect, blurring the background while keeping the FaceTime user in focus. SharePlay is kind of interesting. It lets users share experiences on FaceTime, including listening to songs together on Apple Music, watching a TV show or movie in sync, or sharing their screen to view apps together. And content providers are on board. Disney+, Hulu, HBO Max, the NBA, TikTok, Paramount+, Twitch, and Masterclass are all in, according to Apple. FaceTime Links may be the biggest game changer for FaceTime. It'll let users FaceTime with people on Android or Windows devices. No, Apple is not making an app for that. Rather, users can create a link from iPhone, iPad, or Mac and share it through Messages, Calendar, Mail, or third-party apps. Then people on whatever platform can join the call from a web browser on whatever hardware they're using. Moving out of FaceTime, Notifications got a redesign and sort of a Reader's Digest version. Notification summary can be delivered to you on your schedule. Items in the summary will be arranged by priority, though notifications from people are so high priority, they will not end up waiting in that stack. Notification summary fits well into Focus. TMO's Mr. Orr says, customers can set their device to help them be in the moment by creating a custom focus or selecting a suggested focus, which uses on-device intelligence to suggest which people and apps are allowed to notify them. Not so much a do not disturb as a do not disturb unless, with different thresholds for different activities. Apple Maps gets improvements for every device it's on. Lots more detail for urban areas. Major metros also get a three-dimensional city driving experience with new road details when users are navigating in iPhone or CarPlay. Apple Wallet will start handling state-issued IDs in some states in the U.S. starting later this year. The weather app gets flashier graphics and a lot more information. Apple Notes gets a boost across the board. On iPhone, the app adds user-created tags to make it easy to quickly categorize notes. Mentions in Notes also alert people in shared notes to pay attention because somebody just noted their name. Live text is another feature that turns up in iOS, iPadOS, and macOS. TMO says it uses on-device intelligence to recognize text in a photo, then treats that text like text. So you can copy the text of a sign into a note or document. If you took a picture of a phone number, you can tap it and call that phone's number. With visual lookup, TMO says, users can learn more about popular art and landmarks around the world, plants and flowers found in nature, breeds of pets, and even find books. Now, an area not hit during the keynote but addressed later is a set of changes to Memoji. A piece from MacRumors says Apple's animated avatars are getting 40 new outfit choices. There's also an option to select a different color for the right eye and the left eye for those with heterochromia. New styles of glasses, multicolored headwear options for showing off one's school or sports ball allegiance. And there are new accessibility options for depicting cochlear implants, oxygen tubes, or a soft helmet. Now, I mentioned earlier a smidgen of speculation. 9to5Mac's Michael Stieber hit with a couple of interesting tweets on Monday, both musing on Memoji. The first said, these WWDC 21 moments feel like tiny previews of big ideas that will have an outsized impact on the future of AR, the Memoji emphasis especially. Memoji are easy to dismiss because they're fun, but they feel important to how we'll interact and communicate with the world in AR. Really quickly, he's not just talking about the changes to Memoji. When Tim Cook took the virtual stage at the virtual keynote, the auditorium was filled with Memoji. Anyway, Stieber's second tweet continued the thread, saying if Memoji were just a novelty or simply a tech demo, I don't think we'd see Apple's continued significant investment into their realism and pervasiveness on every platform. It's truly your personal digital avatar for the next wave of services and interfaces. Those comments on Twitter had a few people thinking that, plus the new, more detailed 3D-ness in Apple Maps, is pointing us towards an AR, VR, mixed reality world. And if you heard yesterday's in a few minutes, you know how I feel about that. So you're likely wondering whether your iPhone can handle iOS 15. Probably. A piece from iDownload blog indicates that iOS 15 will run on iPad Touch 7th generation, all of the iPhone 6s, iPhone 7s, iPhone 8s, both generations of iPhone SE, iPhones 10, 10s, and 10R, all of the iPhone 11 models, and all of the iPhone 12s. I'm also willing to bet that it will run on whatever iPhones Apple introduces later this year. Just a hunch. Developers are already rocking the first iOS 15 beta, or they can do anyway. Public betas will start rolling out in July, according to Apple. iOS 15 is set to hit the public this fall. Moving now to Apple's tablet. It's hats off to Andrew Orr once again. He's written up some of the featured features in iPadOS 15 for the Mac Observer. After a year of being pretty much iPhone only, people can now place widgets freely on the iPad's home screen. App Library is also making its move from the phone to Apple's tablet. A new multitasking menu appears at the top of the apps, letting users go into split view or slide over with just a tap, according to the piece. A lot of the features mentioned for Apple Notes in iOS 15 make their way to the iPad, though a bigger screen does mean at least one big trick. Quick Note takes notes system-wide, letting users access the app from every screen if memory serves. Swift Playgrounds also gets an iPad-sized update, including the ability to build and submit apps for iPhone and iPad right from the tablet to the App Store. Translate also makes the move from the phone to the tablet. With it, TMO says auto-translate detects when somebody is speaking and in which language, so users can converse naturally without having to tap a microphone button. Text can now be translated anywhere on iPad by selecting it and tapping Translate, and handwritten text can also be translated because we live in the future. Additionally, a lot of the stuff announced for iOS 15 will make it to iPad as well, including Focus, Live Text, SharePlay, and other FaceTime enhancements, and the better Maps experience. At this point, you're likely wondering, can my tablet take it? Probably, though we have discussed how iPads linger longer. iDownload blog outlines which tablets iPadOS 15 will work on. They include every 12.9-inch iPad Pro so far, every 11-inch iPad Pro so far, the 10.5-inch iPad Pro, the 9.7-inch iPad Pro, 5th through 8th generation iPad, 2nd through 4th generation iPad Air, and the 4th and 5th generation iPad Mini. Developers are already rocking the first iPadOS 15 beta, or can do anyway. Public betas will start rolling out in July, according to Apple. iPadOS 15 is set to hit the public this fall. More updates on updates in a moment, but first a word from the Business Movers podcast from Wondery. Every year I watch the WWDC keynote and part of me feels less than. I'm not setting up business calls with 10 people. My iPhone is not putting together a film of me rock climbing. I just use my stuff the way I use it. Nothing fancy, nothing heroic. Maybe the way Steve Jobs would want. Jobs liked to say a computer is a bicycle for our minds. He saw how bikes elevated our minds and bodies, and he thought computers could do the same for the brain. That said, some people go mountain biking, some people just bike to the store. Who was that guy? Well, he was the guy who co-founded Apple. He was the guy who brought it back from the brink, and in between he was a guy outside Apple, building the things that would eventually save that company. Hear more about that time on The Enlightenment of Steve Jobs, Season 5 of the Business Movers podcast from Wondery. These may be facts you know, but Business Movers brings them to you as a story. Personally, I like that style, and you can hear it now. Listen to Business Movers, The Enlightenment of Steve Jobs on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or you can listen 1 week early and ad-free by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app. Wondery, feel the story. It may seem like I'm giving the rest of the operating systems short shrift, but seriously, most of the day was devoted to iOS, a lot was devoted to iPadOS, and the rest got sort of a and the rest treatment. Part of that could be because of all of the crossover. Maps improvements hit lots of things. FaceTime improvements hit lots of things. Still, there were neat new features for macOS Monterey. Among them, universal control. This basically links your devices with your other devices, as long as they're near each other. So, you're working on your MacBook, you've got files on your iPad, using the trackpad on your MacBook, you can pointer your way onto your iPad, grab the file you want, then slide it over to the Mac. Or, just point and type on the iPad using the Mac's keyboard. The demo actually showed this working on 3 machines, an iMac on one side, an iPad on the other, and a MacBook in the middle, acting as universal controller. users will be able to AirPlay to Mac. Users can shoot video, music, or share their screen from an iPhone to a Mac running Monterey. In a move that seemed to sadden some and buoy others, shortcuts are making their way to the Mac. While the company says support will continue for Automator, Apple did say that bringing shortcuts to the Mac was the start of a multi-year transition. So one assumes they're supporting Automator until they're not. And finally, there were changes for Safari. Tabs are getting a new look, sort of blending in with the site a user is visiting. People will also be able to group tabs into something that Apple is calling tab groups. Sounds confusing. Safari controls are getting the 3 dots treatment, basically stacked on top of each other and sort of hidden until needed. And Safari extensions, which have had a home on the Mac, will make their way to Safari for iOS and iPadOS. A piece from Apple Insider says code will be shared with existing Safari extensions, which will make it easier for developers to create ones for the smartphone and the tablet. Now, at this point, you are likely wondering, will my Mac take me to Monterey? MacRumors runs down which machines will make it. They include iMac late 2015 and later, iMac Pro 2017 and later, MacBook Air early 2015 and later, MacBook Pro early 2015 and later, Mac Pro late 2013 and later, Mac Mini late 2014 and later, and MacBook early 2016 and later. The time was short for the watchOS 8 update, though features announced were fierce. Apple's chronometer is doubling down on mindfulness, introducing a new animation for the Breathe app, and a call for reflection. Basically, you think about a thing to calm you and center yourself. I hate the Breathe app, but I love the idea of reflection. May give that one a go. Better health is the killer feature for Apple Watch, and it gets better next go round. Added to the watch's sleep tracking is respiratory rate while sleeping. There's hot newness for workouts on Apple Watch, with Tai Chi and Pilates making the scene. Apple is also adding an artist spotlight series featuring musicians from different formats for Fitness Plus workouts. And finally, there is a watch face that's not exactly new, but definitely improved. The Portraits watch face uses pictures shot in portrait mode, letting users move the time around in the pic for the perfect moment in time. Now, at this point, you're likely getting wound up wondering whether it'll work on your watch. Amazingly, Apple says if your watch will run watchOS 7, it'll run watchOS 8. That includes Apple Watch Series 3, Apple Watch Series 4, Apple Watch Series 5, Apple Watch SE, and Apple Watch Series 6. A lot of people thought watchOS 7 would be the end of the line for the Apple Watch Series 3. For now, at least, Apple says otherwise. Now, sadly, time is not on my side today. We'll push announcements tied to tvOS and Home until tomorrow. We'll also start tomorrow on some privacy and security tweaks and more around the edges. All that plus other news that might be happening, time permitting. I didn't go anywhere, and still, I'm behind. Coming up in a few minutes, we start our week of developers conference reaction with an actual developer. Longtime friend August Trometer joins us to talk Xcode Cloud, writing and submitting apps from iPad, and things that turned him on during the announcements. The show is called In a Few Minutes. Find it and listen wherever you find and listen to podcasts. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by the Business Movers podcast from Wondery. catch Business Mover Season 5, The Enlightenment of Steve Jobs, on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or listen a week early and ad-free through Wondery Plus in the Wondery app. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSken. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.